Hello, this is Don Victor, author of Drawn to Win, host of the podcast Drawn to Win, the director of the Academy of Composition, and the creator of the Core 80 Experience, also known as the See and Grow Rich in Art video course, which you can find out more information at core80.com. This is the Drawn to Win podcast, where I have the incredible privilege to draw artists from around the world into fun and meaningful conversations around art and life, and yes, maybe even a little food. You can hear us each week on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. So make sure you subscribe so you always have a seat among friends. Let's get into the show. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. So, where are you from? Where are you calling in from today?
Great Falls, Montana.
Great Falls. Is that near Little Falls?
No, I don't know where that is.
Me either.
Kind of the center of Montana.
Now, I'm assuming, is it like a big waterfall there, or is it like, what's the Great Falls?
Yeah, there are several falls, but I believe it was named because of Lewis and Clark came through here on the Missouri, and there were some really big waterfalls around here that have since been dammed, and it doesn't look very pretty anymore, but they were the Great Falls of the Missouri.
Wow, that's kind of cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, what are you currently working on?
Well, kind of several things, but right in front of me at this very moment is a Great Dane portrait. It's a pastel portrait.
That's cool. Who does the Great Dane belong to?
I'm not really sure the person's name, but my friend Cassie hired me to draw him because he recently died. Or actually, it might be a she. I'm really not sure. It recently died, and it's her friends, so she just asked me to draw it for them.
Nice. And do you do a lot of animal commissions?
That is mostly what I do these days. I would prefer to just do wildlife from like around here, like the Rocky Mountain wildlife is what I prefer to do. But I always have about 10 commissions that I need to work on. They never go away, which I appreciate them.
Nice.
But I just rarely have time for anything that I really want to do. But I think everything I have right now is dogs in my list. Like as soon as I'm done with this, I have a dog paw, and then as soon as I'm done with that, I have 2 dogs. And
wow, you're like running a
pretty
kennel.
Sure they're all dogs. Basically, people love their dogs.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. Like have an artist who does, dog portraits, and it's called the Paper Kennel. Paperkennel.com. I gotta go look that up before someone takes it.
There you go. I can take some prints and just put them all on the walls.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And when you're and so you would like, if you could, you would rather like go out and be drawing these the wildlife in the area. What kind of wildlife do you love?
Grizzly bear is my favorite.
Really? Do you see them out there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, I actively seek them out.
Really? That's so cool.
We have Glacier National Park and then Yellowstone National Park are pretty close, so I like to go to those and photograph all of the animals I see, but I know where a lot of the grizzlies are in Glacier, so I like to get out there in the morning, usually is when you can see them. And
so when you see the grizzly, does the grizzly ever say, "Hey, boo-boo, draw me a picture"?
Never yet, but
never yet. Hey, Sarah,
they usually just look at me and then walk away.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, it's funny. My parents, they moved up into the mountains, and for many years, like every couple of years it happened, but for many years, like there was these black bear that would come up, and I remember I was sitting at the table once, and I turned around, and where the table was, there was a sliding door to go outside, and so I turn around, there's a freaking bear right behind me, and maybe less than a foot away, like,
Wow.
and then they just
That
come
would
up.
be a little scary.
Yeah, it was in that moment. Yeah, but they come up and they sit in the pond, or my parents go out and feed them every day. I don't see them, now, but they have this big bucket of bird seed that they put out there, so that the bear doesn't knock down their bird um, feeders. But they'll come around every once in a while. You see little cubs running around out there, and I once took a picture of myself trying to walk up to one. I'm like, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but I just feel like I have to, and I'm like walking towards the
That is
bear.
dangerous.
Yeah, but
I used to be a little more brave, but since I've had children, I stay away from them. And then well, like here in Montana, the bears, we definitely try to keep them wild. And if you end up getting too close to one, that's your fault. If you put yourself out there and you are in their home, and then something happens to you, whether you're mauled or you do die from it, they often kill the bear. And I just love them so much. So now I'm like, I don't want to put their life in danger. So I try to stay farther away.
wow, that I wonder why they kill them. I guess if they kill a person, then they're like, oh, that was easy. I can do it again.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is, see, most of the bears run away, and I've been around a lot of black bears too, but I've probably had encounters with at least 50 grizzly bears.
What?
And usually like on a trail, not protected in a car or anything, but like out on a trail. And if usually they just walk away. Sometimes they're slightly curious, but usually they will go the other direction. And what happens is sometimes, like if they actually do kill a person and then they eat them or they bury them, because then that means they're coming back later. Or if they try to fight other people for that person, then it's predatory behavior. And so they like to take that bear out because they don't want it, eating people.
Yeah.
But
wow. I'm gonna bury
they're
you.
actually pretty rare here. It's usually like 1 or 2 a year.
1 or 2 a year.
Death.
Wow. Wow. That's
usually in Yellowstone. But
okay. I'm not going to make any more comments on bears because now my mind is going very morbid, and I'm coming up with all these really gross, nasty death jokes right now, which yeah. So on that note, Yellowstone. So do you go out and do you sketch the bears like when you see them, or is it just kind of like you just like feeling whatever it is that you feel in that space and then you bring it home to your studio?
Yeah, I would just take photos because usually when, like if I go to Glacier, that's usually where I go. If I'm hiking there, I usually have my kids with, and we're I guess I don't feel like I have the time to sit there and draw something. And I wouldn't draw a bear just because, again, you don't want to invade their space too much. But from a distance with a telephoto lens, I will take some photos and then just bring them home and work from there. But eventually I would like to start painting and then bring stuff into the park and do like maybe landscape painting and stuff there.
Like a plein air type of thing.
I feel like that's a long way down the road because it's hard when you have kids. They're not going to sit there.
Yeah. You got to hire yourself a little nanny so you can go, a little painting nanny. Um,
There you go.
yeah, I found it very hard with the kids. I basically just had to be like, well, I guess for the next 5 years, I'm not making any artwork. Um,
Yep.
and now they're at an age where I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, like I can do something with them, and
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. How old are yours?
Um, John is 9, Anna is 12, and Ava is 13.
Oh my goodness, you have three. That's cool.
Yep.
Wow. Um,
And only one of them likes art.
yeah, which one?
The middle one, Anna.
Nice,
She's
nice.
incredible. She's going to be something special when she is older because she's
Beautiful.
already doing as well as I did in my early 20s.
Really? Ah, that's cool. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very cool. And what are your other kids into?
John likes soccer and video games,
Okay.
and Ava really likes track and cross country and hanging out with her friends, basically.
Very cool. So you got a couple jocks in the family. And
Yep.
you got the art nerd and
Yep.
and the video geek. Yeah.
Yep.
You got a good crew there. Um uh that's really cool. Um so I'm interested in learning a little bit about we were talking before we got on. Um you don't paint at this time, but it's something that you're looking forward
No.
to getting into. So what's the story behind this?
Well, my great aunt Cheryl was a painter, and she is pretty much who got me wanting to be an artist because
Hmm.
she mostly did like Native American art, and just her work is phenomenal. She's now got Alzheimer's and
Mm.
is obviously not doing artwork anymore, but man, was she impressive years ago. And I I saw her paintings, and my whole life was like, I want to grow up and be just like my Aunt Cheryl.
Hmm.
But I just didn't really get the opportunity to have paints my whole
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
So pencil and paper is pretty cheap. So, and it was always available to me. So I just kind of started out doing that. And I always had this goal to just be able to draw, I guess, as well as my Aunt Cheryl could paint. But I will eventually get to paints. Last time I tried, my son was maybe 2 years old, and I bought a bunch of oil paints and had everything out. And I was just like, what am I doing? He was in everything. So I was just like, I'm going to wait until they're older, but they are definitely older, and I probably could do it somewhere. I feel like I don't have the space yet.
Hmm.
And I don't know, that's probably just a limit in my own mind. I'm sure people paint with a lot less space than I have. I I don't have the proper ventilation, or I don't know. We have two cats that are on everything all the time,
Oh,
and I just,
you get fuzzy paint. No, it's
yes.
actually it's. I actually think it's probably a good thing for you, to be honest, because a lot of artists who they lean into the paint, and oftentimes it can lead them to becoming very weak in other aspects of their work because oftentimes there's a lot of artists who mistake the art for the medium and not
Mhm.
realizing that they themselves are the medium. Um, and those limitations cause you to focus on certain things, and so your skill is extremely high. Um, you just have no skill in painting because you don't
Mhm.
paint, you know.
Yeah, I
But
have no idea, and I've like never. really done just a couple attempts here and there, and it was awful because when you start something like that and you've never done it, and I mean, I've never been shown how to do it. I just got the paint and was like, here we go. And it was awful. And I'm used to a certain level in my other mediums. And then and it's funny because I might spend 100 hours on, a graphite drawing. And yet I was like 5 minutes into this painting and I'm just like, oh, it's not good enough, already. And then I gave up right away. But I am learning, though, through pastels and using color. I'm learning that, you kind of create the base first and then you can build things up, which I did not know when I first attempted oil painting.
You're going to be good at painting when that time comes. Because, like you said, you already have that foundation and you're starting to think that way. But it's but I totally feel your pain because I grew up broke in my situations, and being a foster kid, being bounced from here to there. Sometimes I would be in a family that we had wealth, and then literally within less than 12 hours, your whole life would be yanked and thrown into a place that, could barely feed you. And so it was very strange for me. Like I remember, the only paintings I really saw were paintings in books. And I remember being in high school, going to my friend's house, and his parents had this painting on a wall. And I looked at it, and then I walked up, and I'm like, oh, it has texture, right? Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this doesn't look like a photograph. Like, because when I would try to paint, I try to make it look like what I saw in the books. And in the books, everything was smooth. And that was because you took this big image, you shrunk it down, which got rid of all those little, you didn't see the brush strokes, right? And, and I was like, what is up with this? It was a weird experience seeing it. And, but like you make up for that. And so the drawing skills were tight. And then I found a teacher when I was 17 who really taught me about composition and design, which is where I totally just fell in love with. And so that's where my mind really got strong in, and also storytelling. But, I'm looking on your website at some under your materials, and there's these pan pastels. Do you like those?
Yep. Yes,
Those are cool,
that's
right?
actually what I'm using right now today on the Great Dane.
Oh,
I
cool.
finished only just like one little tiny section of it, like around the eye, but I was just kind of blocking in some under colors, I guess, with the pan pastels. And then I use the pastel pencils for the detail. But yeah, those really just make it go so much faster. Being able to use those, and they're so nice and smooth and just great. I love them.
Yeah, the people who created them live in a town maybe 10 minutes from me, and a little place called Kutztown. And I remember years ago, I had where I used to study, one of the top, famous students there, Sin McGinley. She did this beautiful pastel work, and these people reached out to her, and this was probably 10, 11 years ago when they first came out. And I remember doing a video of our studio, and she had these little circle discs, for the pastels, and she was telling me about that. So when I saw them on your website, I was like, oh shoot, like very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and you kind of get the feel of painting sometimes. Like I have some brushes that I use for them too. So it's just something different than a pencil all the time, which is really nice because I feel like I get a little bit sick of the pencil. So
Sure.
nice to try something else. I haven't been using them for very long. This is maybe my 4th drawing with them.
Now, are you sponsored by anyone in terms of materials?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
I'd
wish.
encourage you to reach out to that places that do that. Because that's a great way to just get a lot of free supplies.
Yeah.
And
I've seen a few people that I'm friends with on Facebook. They are because they're always, posting the links to all the supplies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look into it. Because your work is solid. So,
Thank you.
It just is what it is. And so I think you'd be a good representative on that. I'm looking over your website. It's high class website, very classy. And I really do.
I just made it.
Oh, really? Cool. Well, there it works. Squarespace.com. Get your free website started today. I don't know if it's free, but what I do like is I haven't really seen a website where people really put a page for materials. And I just think that's a really cool little feature to kind of give an idea.
I get so many questions about use, and especially through Facebook, I get messages all day, every day, and some of them I just don't even get to because, I probably get 40 messages a day on there.
Oh, wow.
Most of them are, what materials do you use? And I just kept writing over and over and forgetting what I used, so I'd have to get everything down. And I was like, man, I just need a link to send people to. So.
Well, that works. All right. Welcome back. We had a little technical difficulty, so we had to remedy that. Now we're back. Sarah, let's start from the beginning, all the way from the beginning. What's your first memory, or that you can think of on the spot, when it came to art?
Probably when I was little, my brother and I used to go to our grandparents' house, and there was a giant painting that my Uncle Dane had done of a buffalo standing like on a plateau. And it's really good. I have several artists in my family, so I guess that was one of the pieces that made me just want to be like my Uncle Dane and my dad and my Aunt Cheryl. And my brother and I used to take some paper that my grandparents had, and they sort of had an art drawer for us.
Nice.
And we would draw, basically try to recreate the paintings and drawings that my family had around my grandparents' house.
That's cool.
Yeah, and there was I don't know if you've heard of Charlie Russell, but he's a old cowboy artist that's famous here. And they had an old calendar that they weren't using anymore, so they had taken like the pictures out of it and stuck it in that drawer too. So we were always trying to, I guess, draw like Charlie Russell and stuff. So there's a lot of Western art influence.
Nice. And so your Uncle Great Dane, who you're doing a portrait of today. This composition of this buffalo on a plateau, like I can imagine it. And it's probably nothing like I imagined, but the way I imagine it, kind of, for some weird reason, I see something very similar to a, what's his name? Millen Dixon? Max?
No idea.
You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, hold on 1 second. For some reason, I was saying Millard Dixon, but I know that's not his right name. Oh, maybe it is Millard. No, hold on. Yeah, maybe it is Millard. Well, there's a an incredible Midwest artist. I'll find out his name and maybe send him to you. Question on that painting, if you can remember it, was the buffalo large or was he kind of small within a big space?
I believe he was pretty large, and I think there was like other buffalo down like farther back in the picture, and I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but there's a butte here called Square Butte, and I think that was in the background. I'm not sure if he actually went out and painted the landscape somewhere else and then just added them in, or what. I've never asked him, but I know he did it in high school, and it was incredible. Well, I believe he has it now. But.
Oh, okay. And you said your dad was into the arts as well?
Yep, he I guess mostly did like ballpoint pen sketches. Or I guess that's really all I have of his anyways, but he died when I was 5, but he was definitely extremely artistic and got a lot of like awards for it and stuff when he was in school.
Do you mind if I ask you how he passed away?
He was in a car accident.
Oh my God. It's as we would say in French, that sucks.
It did. Yep.
And my dad died when I was about somewhere between 5 and 6. And that was kind of the catalyst for me getting into the arts. And yeah, that's what do you think over your life looking back at it? Well, almost 30 years now, I guess. Well, how do you, obviously it affected you, but would you share one positive thing that you think came out of it and one thing that you maybe even still kind of have or sad or deal with today from it? And if you're not comfortable talking about that, we can just move on.
No, that's fine. I guess a positive would be, I mean, I think anything that has gone on in my life, good or bad, has gotten me to be where I am today, or to be who I am. And I mean, there was tough stuff, and that was one of the biggest and one of the first real tough things. And I think it helped me just learn that there is suffering and struggle in the world. And I think it makes people, I guess, less naive about everything when they have something so big and tragic like that happen at such a young age. And I mean, obviously there were difficulties once one of your parents is gone. And you know, my mom has struggled with alcoholism her whole life. So there was always a feeling of like, I wish my dad was still alive, because he had stopped drinking, and, you know, maybe my life could have been better if he had still been alive. But then I think, you know, maybe I would have gone off some other crazy direction, and maybe I'd be better. I don't know. But I just feel like I'm doing pretty well in my life. And so I don't know. I feel like I've dealt with all of that stuff a long time ago. And I mean, of course, I wish he was here, because I think he would be really proud of me and supportive of my art career. So.
Yeah, sure he would. Sure he would. It's a tough thing. Like sometimes it pops up out of the weirdest places. You're like, what? Yeah. And especially when you're young, there's just Now, you said that your mom then got remarried, and
She wasn't remarried. It was just the person she was with after he died
oh, okay,
was
okay,
also an artist, and he actually died too, so in a car wreck later.
okay. No, so we had a new house. No, the that's horrible. Really, he wow,
Yeah, many
that would
years
make me walk everywhere from that point on.
well, I am a little worried on car rides on occasion, but I yeah, Tattoo York was kind of what he was known as around here.
Tattoo York.
Tattoo York, because his name was York Fredrickson, but
Okay, that's a
he,
cool name.
I know. He had a tattoo shop here in Great Falls, and that was, I mean, I think, you know, having my dad pass was really difficult. And then I was always trying to draw from his photos and trying to be like him. And then when York came along, it was, oh, now I'm going to be a tattoo artist because this
That's
is,
cool.
you know, so I had wanted to do that for probably from the time I was like 6 years old until I had done a couple times in my life. I've done some tattoo apprenticeships, but I just never stuck with it, and life would get in the way. So,
And how old were you when York died?
I was 17.
Oh, okay. So wow. So he was with your mom for quite a while
Well,
then.
no, he actually wasn't. They were only
Oh, okay, okay.
a
My
couple
bad.
of years, but he had stayed as a presence in my life and my brother's life. He would take us fishing and
Yeah.
like that. And then later, as I got a little bit in my older teens, I reconnected with him again, and we went to Glacier Park and stuff, and got to do some things we loved to do before he ended up passing away. But that was actually when I was 17. I moved to Missoula, Montana, to go to the U of M, or University of Montana, for art.
Okay.
But he died like the week school started.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up just kind of, that it was really hard. That was a very hard time for me.
Okay.
I ended
So
up
that's strange. So you had to deal with death twice.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. My dad died when I was between 5 and 6, and my mom died when I was about 17-ish. She died on Parent Day, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I'm like, hey, everybody's talking about their parents in school today.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a weird coincidence here between you and I, you know, because even though it wasn't your mother, but it was someone else who, you know, had an influence in your life there. What would you say was probably one of his greatest lessons that helped you with your art?
I guess he was kind of a tough guy, you know, how often old-timey tattoo artists are. But he would always, like, if I would draw something, he would never be like, you know, like a lot of parents are like, oh my God, that's amazing, best thing ever. You know, he would be like, well, you should draw it more like this. And I think I really appreciated that, because, and I do that with my own kids, and they sometimes get mad at me.
Good.
But I think, like with my daughter Anna, I know she wants to be an artist, and she has been. I mean, like when I was little, my mom saved all of my report cards, and so I still have them. And me and my kids were recently looking through all those old report cards. Every one of them says, Sarah is such a great artist, you know, from all the way from kindergarten.
That's awesome.
And Anna has that same thing, like since she was in preschool. And I remember getting these little notes that they would say, I've never seen a kid this age drawing like this. And And so I know she wants to do really well, but she also gets very sidetracked with other things in her life, like her iPod. And I don't know, she'll spend, 5 minutes on a drawing, and I'm just like, that is great. However, if you would put in an hour on that, that same thing, it would be more what she wants to achieve out of it, because she'll complain about it and act like it's not good enough. And it's like, well, you got to put the time in.
Yeah.
Patience. York taught me patience.
So. Nice. York taught me patience. It's a great title for a book. A memoir. My tattoo stepdad. Oh, you're not stepdad because he wasn't married, but like.
Well, we always called him that.
Okay, so. Cool. It's an interesting. I never really had to think about it in terms of, like with your daughter, putting 5 minutes in, and then, how do you go from 5 minutes to an hour? Because that's pretty tough on a kid. Well, yeah, maybe it's not. It would depend. Yeah, I was gonna say it's just the the environment you set.
Yeah. When she does put the time in, she just really can create some great things.
Of course.
I guess before when I guess I could say about a year ago, she had started trying to focusing on realism, and she was drawing a red panda for her teacher, who that was her favorite animal, and it just wasn't very dark. It was just kind of lightly sketched with colored pencil. But I kind of went back through, I was just doing a little section of it, and I was like, if you put some darks in here, and then it'll give it some depth. And she probably spent 3 more hours on that drawing, and it was definitely her best at that point.
But, that's awesome. Yeah. And she's super proud of it.
Oh yeah.
That's cool. When my daughter was, I guess she was about 8 at the time. I decided, okay, now it's time to kind of start teaching her how to design. And so I gave her this big bird book, and I said, pick a bird out of there, And so I walked her through this process, and I was really shocked because before we even got to coloring it, she already invested 6 hours into this bird image.
Wow.
And it was crazy because she would come back and nag me, Dad, I'm ready for the next step. Dad, come on. And I'm like, it's you already put 6 hours into this thing. What are you all excited for? You're supposed to be bored with this, and but she wasn't, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I guess kids are pretty impressive. So
at that age too, that's crazy.
yeah. I mean, it's weird. My daughter's a freak. When it comes to when she was a little baby, she'd drag her little red chair out on the front porch, and we wouldn't stop her. When I say a baby, I mean 2.5, 3 years old, maybe even young, probably about 2.5, because my son wasn't even born at the time. And she'd just drag her little chair out onto the front porch, and we wouldn't go out after her. We would just, look out the window, make sure she was, safe. And she'd just sit there, literally, she'd sit there for an hour and a half, just watching stuff, cars go by, the people. She's like a little tiny old lady, sitting on her front porch.
She has an old soul.
Well, that she does. And but now, she loves creating things. She loves the arts, and so, yeah. Sophie, even her name is old. That's really cool. So where would you like to see yourself in about 5 years or so?
In a cabin in the woods.
Exactly.
I don't know, really. I guess I want to move into a place where I can have my own space, my
Nice.
own
Okay.
room for my art stuff. I
It's called a
sort of share.
studio. It's
Yeah,
a
I know.
studio.
Yeah, I have like half of a studio, but it's also a room where everybody comes to use the computer and stuff too. So,
Okay.
and the cats eat their food in here, so it's not really secure, not as secure as I want it to be. Um, the cats, sometimes I leave my pan pastels open, and
Oh no.
there's been some footprints on my desk, some gray footprints.
Wow. If that happened to me, I'd be like, hey, look at my keychain. This is called a cat's paw.
Yeah, they are. They are usually shut out of the room at night, but on occasion we forget. So I don't know. It's always stressful though, having them have access to the room where that is. And we also have a snake in here too. And
A pet one, I'm hoping.
it is a pet one.
Okay.
I have a pet boa, and my art desk is basically their last place where they have to jump from there onto his cage, and they like to watch him. So
Wow. That's interesting.
yeah, I
A
need my own.
little zoo. Yeah, getting a studio, that would be a great target for over the next 5 years.
Yeah, but I would
Yeah.
also like to have my stuff in a gallery or in several galleries. I've actually had galleries contact me and offer to put my stuff in there, but I just never have anything. They're
Because you
either
mainly do commissions.
Yeah, and then even when I do other things, they're usually sold
Mm.
right away. So
what do you need a gallery for besides to give all your money away to it?
I know. I just want my stuff I want people to start knowing my name, and I don't know, just have it shown to more people. We have a really cool art show here every year. It's called the Out West Art Show.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been able to get a room there yet because it's just really hard to get in. And they usually have like 1 to 200 people applying every year, and maybe 1 or 2 rooms available. So it's really hard to get in, but
And what's the benefit of it?
People come from all over to come to it. It's Out West Art Week is really huge here.
You know, I'd encourage you to consider something. Because you already are selling, you already are technically having a name for yourself. And I'm just throwing this out. I'd encourage you to really look into Instagram and Facebook ads, not just posting your artwork and to your social network, but really learning how to invest money in paid advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to get your work in front of the people that matter.
Yeah.
Period. And so rather than, fighting over a room for people to come to this event, which is really cool. But maybe having a bigger scale plan, which would be like, well, how can you go to those people? So for example, if those people go to that show, there's probably a Facebook page around it, which they liked. And then you can run ads to the people who like that page, right? So that way you're actually leveraging Facebook to actually go find those people rather than competing for a room. Now, there is something to be said about physically meeting with people, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm just thinking from a 2018 perspective, and a lot of those galleries and things, they just seem so antiquated to me. Like they're just I'm not saying that they don't have value, but I almost feel like there's just more of a mystique to it, and but when you really pull back the curtain, you're like, what? That's it, and and you want how much for that?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I know. And that's actually been the reason I didn't put anything in the galleries that have asked, because that 50% price they want is really, that's tough.
yeah, and now if you're in the right gallery that's really going to work for you and market you and put the money into you, great, But too many galleries are just like, hey, I got a good space, because I have a law office upstairs, and here's a beautiful gallery space I made,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to make their money, but a lot of times, I don't know, it's just something off, and I heard one artist talking about it, how years ago they would actually market you, and back then when they were actually working hard for the artist, the commissions were a lot less too. It was very weird. Um, but your work is good, and anyone who sees it is going to have appeal. There's going to be appeal to it. Um, and if you want people to know who you are, then you just need to kind of start marketing yourself.
Yeah.
But I think your work is fantastic.
Thank you.
And yeah, so it's just something to consider, looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, and I think the Out West Art Show, part of me wanting to get in there is just I've wanted it for so long, and it's just I've been going for so many years, and I want a room there because it's like
Can I
don't know.
push you on this idea? Can I
What?
challenge you?
What?
I'm gonna act like York for a moment. Um, I think, not that what I think matters, but I think you should do it. Just so that you have it underneath. You wanted it so long, so go do it, just for the emotional part of it. But I'd also encourage you to spend time asking yourself, going deeper in understanding why you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And whatever the answer is, being okay with it, saying, well, okay, well, I want this because the nostalgia, or I want to make my dad and stepdad proud, or I want whatever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to prove that I can own it,
Yeah.
like just own it. It's fine. But knowing the truth of why, when on one hand you realize like it's this, but on the other hand you still want it, right?
Yeah.
It might reveal some very interesting things within yourself that are strengths, maybe even some weaknesses, but whatever it is, it's you.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of it though is going to it for so long and seeing these amazing artists. And I mean, I usually go in there and meet all the people, and then we're all Facebook friends now. And so I feel like I want to be, or I've always wanted to be one of those people who have a room at this, and like paint as good as some of them, and which I probably never will. But but I mean,
that's
in my
bullshit.
own, well, there are some. You know what it is? It's that I do a certain thing.
Yes.
I'm really into the realism, and I have a real hard time not doing that. Like if I try to do something that is a little outside of the box or whatever, I can't do it. My mind will not let me do it.
I can break you of that. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Looking at your work, it's borderline. Like, you have the realism, right? You have that. But oftentimes realism is a crutch. And when I look at the way that your mind is thinking, when I say your mind is thinking, I mean like, let me go find that mallard. You have this mallard, right? And let me get back to the little guy here, under wildlife. The mallard, actually, it's the last one that you have. To me, that there's so much. Do you see him? It
Yeah.
looks like he's on a. It looks like a gold paper. I know it's not gold, but it's just the way the camera's hitting it.
Mhm.
That bird is just pure design, and I think you would find an incredible freedom and elegance and a whole, maybe even a whole another side of yourself if you would push nature's design, but honoring the fact that it's designed. Like, now let me go a little further in this. The way that you do his feathers in the bottom, if you look at that, the mark making that's in there,
Mhm.
if someone zoomed into that, they would think that was a Van Gogh painting. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
right? And then you like that's gorgeous. I don't want to call it texture. I want to call it an energy. Okay, it's a visual vibration that you've created. And then when your eye juxtaposes the breast of the mallard, the chest, right, whatever you call it, the crest, breast, chest, whatever, um, those little triangle shapes of the
Mhm.
feathers is just exquisite. Now, when I look at it, I can tell the math is off, and so therefore it like visually it looks good, but it to me it doesn't feel as elegant as it could just because the ratios of space and width and things like that. And so that's part of designing, like getting really into the grammar and the precision of things.
Mhm.
Um, but as an image, it's gorgeous. But I can see underneath the surface, your mind is, I'm going to say, actually quite comfortable and probably even enjoying these aspects. And it wouldn't take very much. I mean, literally, just like one little step, and boom, you would start finding like a style that would be very high design, high art. Um, and like your pheasant, the
Yeah.
pheasant. Now, again, you didn't invent this. You're just pulling it right out of nature. But to see the feathers on the back of the pheasant, then you see those beautiful gold with the black tip feathers, and then this whole other little like array of purple and reds of the feathers in front. Then you
Mhm.
have the white feathers and then like the color gradations. But what I find fascinating is that they're all different types of feather shapes, right?
Mhm.
And those patterns create visual vibrations that are literally different designs. And it's this beautiful collage of different design. And I like how you have the wheat around him. But that whole little setting, I really like how the bird isn't just cut off and he's just not there, but how you have the contour really ending at each feather, right? And
Mhm.
then having coming up off of the bird these little things of wheat. I think inside that, the way you finish that off, there's a something that you can add to your work that's that's coming out in that image. So uh, I would totally encourage you to try to make some time and push yourself, and don't rely on the realism to sell your work, because I think you have that down and that's sellable. But even like the goat, right? I mean, oh God, I mean the heaviness, the texture, the weight that you have in those antlers juxtaposed to them, you can almost feel like if you brushed up against that goat, it would actually scratch you with his hair a little bit, right? Like it doesn't feel like oh, that's a soft, nice little coat, right? You feel like a coarseness to it.
Yeah.
Um, so the way that and all you're doing is making marks. So your marks are communicating, they have energy, they have weight, they have personality. And because you can actually do that, I would really encourage you to push that even more and see and see what comes alive. Like there is a wild living thing in that paper. And when you scratch away at this whiteness with color and pencil and mark, you're kind of like setting that wild little animal out. And it may not be a goat. It may be something that you invent. It might be, you know, the goat that lives in that paper that doesn't look like the goat that lives on a mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm kind of talking on and being weird, but that's what I do. But I really see something behind your images, and I just totally encourage you to kind of push a little bit more and be a different version of Sarah. But like, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do things differently. Like, it used to be that I would only draw from one reference photo and I would make it look exactly like that thing. But then, I don't know, like probably in the last year or two, I have started, like, especially with that mallard, I think that was probably like 4 different mallards that I pieced together. And that goat, that was from an actual photo that I took. So that one was just basically looking at the picture and drawing it. But like recently, I guess it was the drawing I did before the Great Dane that I'm working on right now. It was the reference photo was a picture from, I would say it looks like maybe the 80s, the early 80s. And somebody took a picture of that picture with a cell phone and then sent it to me. And I believe there was like a hurricane and all of the pictures of that man were lost, and he had died a long time ago. So there was just no photos of him. So they wanted me to draw that picture. And oh man, when I blew it up, it was impossible to see anything. And I only did it because it was a family friend. I would never do that otherwise, and I will never do it again, I don't think. But I basically had to look at pictures of his family members to get a lot of the, I guess, texture in the face and stuff. And because basically the picture the reference photo I was looking at was nothing but pixels, like just blotches of color. And so I kind of measured it all out and made like the shape of his face and then just sort of put stuff in, and apparently it looks like the guy. But I guess that one was really hard. That was a really big challenge. And actually the Great Dane I'm working on right now, I'm looking at 3 different photos of the dog and a different Great Dane because again, it's, cell phone pictures that are not very good. But so I'm trying to learn to specialize in kind of creating my own, I guess, giving them life in a different way.
Indeed.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And that's where, I think it's wise. Like you got to, pay your rent. So you got to pay your bills and you got to do what you got to do. But then as an artist, I'm glad that you try not to just look at one photo. So many artists do that, and then their work just becomes, just a copy of a photo, which is like, oh, okay, well, cool. Yeah. I remember when I was younger, my art master, my drawing master, there was this picture on one of those magazines, like Drawing America or Drawing Today or whatever, right? Pastel magazine, right? And there was this, I thought was an incredible portrait. I thought, oh man, look at that! It looks so real. And I said, hey, Myron, what do you think about this? And he's like, hmm. And I was thrown off. I was like, what? Why could, like, what was that all about? And he was just very unimpressed. And it took me years to figure out why he just was unimpressed. And it's, and I think sadly, like, when it comes to realism, I see it very much, and this is going to sound weird. To me, I see it very often like when people paint a huge canvas, like a 8-foot painting, and it's like bright and noisy and it's like marks everywhere, very abstract expressionism. Because when you walk in and you see that thing, it is so overwhelming and so powerful and so loud. And you're like, oh my gosh, I feel it, right? And so you're like, I gotta have it. Well, sane people don't say that, but some people say that. And then you take it home and you're like, man, this is so great. It's alive. And then, a week later you come home and you're like, shut the hell up, you say to the painting, because it doesn't stop screaming. And then you you move it into another room, or at some point, 3 months later, it's in the basement. 2.5 years later, it's in garage sale, right? And that experience I often see in the same way as like realism, where it is impressive, right? It's an impressive skill. And people come in and like, oh my gosh, that person's so skilled. How can they made it look like a photo? This is great. And they'll buy it and they'll put it up. And then a week later, it's cool. And then a little after that, it's boring. Because it's just a copy of a photo, or it's just it's real. It's just the facts, right? Like there is no romance to it. And it's kind of like, hey, in the beginning of a relationship, there's a lot of romance, and then when life sets in and the facts of, okay, well, it's time to eat, it's time to go to bed, it's time to wake up, time to go to the bathroom, time to go to work, kind of, and then it's like it's stale. It becomes stale. And so I think that's where the artist has to come in and find the authority and the permission and the courage to be not free, like in the sense of the abstract expressionism, but free to say, I really love this subject and I want to really capture its essence first.
Yeah.
And then you add context to it, so if you tend to be someone who goes more realistic, then that's fine. But spending time in that, what is the essence? What is the soul? What is the life? What is the thing that's really what's the impression of this thing? And it's the same questioning that I, was leading you through about being part of that group, like really push. What's the essence? What's the soul? What's the why? Do you have to be part of that Midwest art group, right? That meet. And why do you have to have a room?
Yeah.
Not to try to not do it, but so that when you do it, you can go with like enthusiasm, because you're very clear and aware of why you're there,
Yeah.
And if it's, for example, if the truth is that you just want to feel connected to a certain type of artist, then go get the damn room. And then when you're there, own it. If it's about that relationship, then what are you going to do? Is it really about you pawning your stuff and trying to sell your artwork there? Or is it really about, hey, I'm part of this group and now I can help facilitate, us going out to eat together or being connected in a physical way, not just on Facebook, like why is it important to you? So that when you're there, you can like really express that.
Yeah.
you know, because if the relationships are important, then you're wasting your time trying to sell.
Oh no, I
You
definitely
get
want to sell.
okay. So I mean, if it is selling, then that, you know, or if it's both or whatever it is, like just being clear on it, you know. So uh so I'd really encourage you. You might even like make a little rule for yourself. Every 5 pieces, I'm going to experiment, right? Just so that
Mhm.
you know, and over the next year, like do, I'll do 3 commissions, and the fourth one, I'm going to push it a little bit, right? And so you can take it a little slow, you know. Um, but I you have incredible skill. You come from a family of artists, and there there's really something quite wonderful living under the surface. And I know it is. There's a strength in it because you had to deal with some really shitty things. And to come out on the other end and have a grace about you, a likability about you. You don't come off like you're bitter or angry or resentful or like there's malice in you. Now, I don't know you. You could be a son of a bitch. You know, you could be like
I'm a big jerk.
You know what? You're a big
Excuse
jerk.
me, I said I was a big jerk.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like even the fact that you would say the word jerk, right? Like I'm a big jerk, right? You're lovable, you know, it's cool. And for someone to go through with what you've gone through and still like have this very like this optimism is quite wonderful, you know. And there's power and life in that. And if you can, you know, push that so that that even comes out more in your work, you have the skills to pull it off, you
Yeah,
know.
thank you.
So
Well, I've been trying to push with my Native American drawings.
mhm.
I guess that's where I really, I mean, the wildlife drawings and the Native American drawings are my
Mhm.
favorite things to do. But I've been like again with the photos, the photo quality. I guess they're just usually not very good because they're so old. Like if I'm drawing old, native war chiefs and things.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is just kind of out of my head. The
Good.
the texture of the skin and like a lot of that it just is not in those old photos at all. So I mean,
Interesting.
I guess,
Interesting.
yeah. I mean, if you
Um,
look at those old photos, I feel like I'm copying more of like the outline of them, but
yeah,
then
well,
giving.
you're right. You're 100% right. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of little techniques. And I'll tell you the secret behind it. Uh, there's different aspects to making art. There's obviously you're a representationalist, um, and you're a realist at a certain level. Okay. The truth is you're really not a realist in terms of your uh, your mindset, because someone who experiences the things that you've experienced, a realist comes out cynical. And the truth is you had to cope with life like we all did. But the personality that you have, there's much more of a romantic in it, you know. Um, and that's probably because you had to deal with, you know, like when I asked you about what's one of the positive things, you know, that's a strange question to ask somebody. Hey, your dad died. What's positive about it? You know, I ask it because I know if my dad didn't die, um, I would probably be uh, a screw up today.
Yeah.
With, you know, I mean, I have my brother and I got lucky that we were pulled out of the environment in which we were born into. But I have brothers who never came out of that environment, and all of them have prison records. One's in there for life. My brother and I, The only time we went to prison was to visit somebody, right? Like,
Yeah.
So that, like, it was a grace. It was actually a gift. I always say God gifted us with the death of our parents because it broke a cycle that allowed my brother and I, my brother's going to be on, most likely going to be on CBS Sunday morning now. Like they were at his magic show yesterday filming him, and they did a big article on him on Southwest Airlines. So if anyone's flying on the airplane right now, that's my brother on the front cover.
That's awesome.
So, and he does magic shows. Like that's what he does for a living, right? For 20 years. But when I look at your work, it's incredible. But like with these Native American ones, this would be a great opportunity to go and have your own powwow. Like go and smoke something. No, I'm just joking. I don't do that. I take great pride in that. I can be weird without substances.
Yeah.
But seriously, like looking at these photos, going and have you ever heard of a guy named Napoleon Hill?
No.
Oh my goodness. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon Hill was when he was young, I guess he was about 20, it was in his early 20s. He went and he met with Andrew Carnegie. And he wanted to write, I guess Carnegie wanted to write a book on wealth. And I guess he asked Napoleon Hill, who was there to interview him, if he would do that. And he said, I will not pay you, but for the next 23 years, you're going to, be dedicated to this book. And it took him like 23 years to write this book. But he said, what I will do is I'll give you access. You'll have access to the most powerful people in the world. And he would then go and interview these people. And he came up with like these lists of things that these people would, the way that they thought, which ultimately came out in the life they produced. And one of the things that he said was this thing called the mastermind group, or mastermind. And this is crazy. And he says, like, he's telling you about this. He's like, now, this sounds crazy, but this is things people do. There is like a council of dead people, right? And this is all like in the minds of these very influential, powerful people. And so like in Napoleon Hill's case, like I think he had like Abraham Lincoln, like Jesus, like he had these different guys throughout history, who were very influential, powerful thinkers. And when he had a problem, he would go alone. He would be alone in his room, and he would imagine that these minds were there, and he would then lay down his issue. And he would then have kind of like a powwow, a council. And it gave him the ability to think in all kinds of different perspectives and whatnot. And I could see you, it might be weird. I don't know. Maybe it won't be weird to you, right? But like it would be an amazing thing the next time you do an Indian portrait to go and spend time alone. Go hug a tree, go sit by a tree, go out in nature.
I do that all the time.
You do? Perfect. Beautiful. Then you're already there. And really, like, ask that guy, who are you? And it's a crazy thing. I don't know the science behind it, but when you ask a question, your mind has to find an answer.
Mm-hmm. And
so if you ask the right questions, all of a sudden the muses that come to you, you will draw things that feel and look and so alive and so personal, because it is.
Yeah. Well, I do have a bit of an obsession with Native American history, and all of the ones that I've drawn so far. I do like to like research them before I draw them to figure out like who they are, what they did, like what they were famous for. I guess not all. One of them wasn't famous, but I feel like it's important to kind of
Try
figure out
this.
who they
Do
were
it backwards. Go spend time with them first before you research them.
Oh, okay.
And you will scare yourself. I was in Portugal, right? And I called my son and I said, guys, I'm missing you. So let's pray together, right? And so when I pray, I make funny noises. And my son says, Dad, can you just pray in English? Right? And I said, no, right? Like, why would I do that, right? And my daughter's like, just let Dad pray the way Dad prays. And I used the opportunity to teach him something. Here he was in the United States, in Pennsylvania. I was in Portugal, across the ocean. And I said, buddy, I want you to answer me a question. When you hear me, the very frequency and the sounds that I make when I pray, describe the image that's in your head. And he says, well, I see a man. I said, okay, you see a man. And what is that man doing? He said, he's standing there. Okay, he's standing there. And he has his hand on his hip and he's leaning to the side. And I said, buddy, you know what's crazy? Is I'm leaning to the side with my hand on my hip right now. And it freaked him out because it was the truth, right? Like when you have experiences like that, the art that you make radically changes. Not so much in the image and the look, but there's something. And so if you go spend time with these guys and then go research it, it's going to freak you out. I'm promising you, it's going to freak you out. Because now you're not just reading history. You're confirming the very, very nature, spirit, energy, mind of the person that you're going to do the portrait of.
Well,
did I scare you yet?
No.
Okay. Sarah, before I let you go here, and if you ever want, you're welcome to give me a call or whatever and have, I just feel so much richness and wealth in you. And I'm not talking about money.
There's not a lot of
richness and wealth in you.
Well, thank you.
And who knows, maybe, well, I'll say it. Maybe, this season of your life, a weirdo like myself may become like a York to you. You know what I'm saying? Like just another guide for a moment that allows you to take yourself to a whole nother level. And, I find it interesting that, what started you was the image of the buffalo. When I was growing up, I grew up in foster care. And so I had to always be in psychologists' offices. And one of the psychologists was this woman who was like all into like Native American stuff and things. And she did some weird things on me. She would have me go through these little exercises, and it was cool. And but one of the things that she had me do was pick my spirit animal or whatever, right? I don't know. I was like 11 or something at the time. But the animal that resonated with me and still resonates with me today is the buffalo. Like, I just, ever since I was a kid, I just had this, not a fascination with them, but a affinity, affection for them. Mm-hmm. And when I just think of what they are, who they are, their being, I'm like, that's not much different than me. Like, it's very weird. So So I like that was in you from the beginning. But before I let you go here real quick, I wanted to ask you another question, a very important question, obviously.
Yeah.
What is it that you like to eat?
Everything.
I think that's like the number one question. Answer to this question.
Yeah. I really like to make like homemade pizza
Really?
or Indian tacos with fry bread.
Indian tacos? What's up with that? Like, what is that?
It is. How can you not know what this is? Everybody should.
Because I live on the East Coast.
It's fry bread,
Uh-huh.
which is just a really kind of sweet dough, and I don't know. Then you just put taco stuff on top of it.
Oh, so it's a taco, but not with like not with a hard
Not with
shell.
like a taco shell. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's fry bread is something that Native Americans basically came up with on the reservation with the limited ingredients they were given. They just kind of came up with this bread that they could fry, and it kind of comes out like a flat, doughy on the inside, crispy on the outside. I mean, it's really good. It's sort of like a donut.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like a taco donut? Oh my God, that sounds so good.
I strongly recommend you Google how to make it and
an Indian taco.
Yeah.
I'm doing it now. Indian taco. I'm hoping nothing. Okay. Oh, ooh.
Yeah, they're pretty
Oh
great.
my gosh. Fried bread is a flat dough bread fried in deep fry. Okay. I like all that flat
It's
dough.
not good for you.
Of course. But
and then you make enough of it, and then you can make desserts with it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. It sounds like one of those little Chinese donuts that you roll in.
Oh yeah, similar.
Yeah. Well, which makes sense because Indians are really Asians. I wonder if they get mad if you say that.
I don't know.
I know, like when my daughter was born, she had this little brown spot on her butt, right? And my son had it. And they call it a Mongolian spot because the only two people in the world who have this thing are the Mongolians and Latinos, right? And I guess I'm assuming that the Indians, the Tainos, and the Indians that we come from migrated over the Bering Strait, and came out of northern China at some point. Undocumented, of course. That's pretty funny. Sorry, I made myself laugh. Yeah, and so it's really weird. Like, you get the Caribbean people with this little brown spot on their butt, and these, Chinese guys who live in the snow or whatever, with this little brown spot on their butt, and it's kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yes. So, Indian tacos. It sounds really, really delicious, actually. Sarah, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, my website is sarahbostonfineart.com, and there's a way to contact me on there.
Now, how do you say your last name?
Boston, like the city.
Boston. Okay, but how do you say it? Boston.
Boston.
Okay.
But then, or through Facebook, and it's also Sarah Boston Fine Art, but no space between the fine and the art on there.
Okay. Well, I'll collect your stuff and I'll put it inside the show notes. And I do want to make sure I stay in contact with you, Sarah. And yeah, because I I see in you a very, very powerful artist, and you've got the skills. It's like communicating anything. It's like you have to be able to communicate, but then you also have to something to say, and you have the skills to say it. And I know, I could. It's like white on rice. Like with you, like you have something tremendous to say inside, and to share. And so I'm going to nag you.
Well, I appreciate it.
So, yeah. I'll be like, stop putting 6 hours in that. Just put 5 minutes. Come on. Just get it out. Get it. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I definitely spend too much time on my work. I wish I could be happy with less. But
You're incredible. All right. So have a good one. And ciao.
You too. Well. Yep. Thank you for letting me be on.
Yep. Indeed.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. In just 30 days, the Core 80 experience teaches you to decode the intentional design underneath great masterpieces. Through video lessons, assignments, and feedback, you learn to recognize the underlining structures like thrust maps, echoes, and gamuts that give master compositions substance and gravitas. Knowing how master artists and illustrators compose their artwork unlocks your ability to give your artwork more meaning and energy. Enroll today and get a 7-day no-hassle money-back guarantee at core80.com.